so we're very proud about that. Yeah, we're not censoring anyone.
Lucy Conolly, how does it make you feel watching that man lie?
He's just a plonker, like, very proud about free speech for a very, very long time. Yeah, we've got free speech in the UK as long as it aligns with Labour's politics and Labour's values. If you don't align with them, then it's, curtains for you.
The problem is the United Kingdom has been led by a vacuous man, an empty shell of a man. He's being controlled, very, very clearly being controlled by the globalist elites. But probably the most disturbing thing is that he's a liar. He is a liar. Slippery Starmer is a liar. And we have to let that sink in. Because, of course, on multiple occasions, there has been a hope that he would have to, after Lucy Conolly's imprisonment, that he would have to own up and in some way acknowledge that there was a problem with free speech in the United Kingdom. That the country of the Magna Carta had fallen down in its ability to protect folk for expressing opinions that maybe his side of politics don't agree with, but certainly do not reach the level of hate speech or inciting violence. But what Starmer does every single time is just goddamn lie. And it doesn't matter whether he's being asked by his apparent ally, J.D. Vance, the vice president, or Bev Turner, the journalist who he hates from GB News. It doesn't matter. He's going to lie because this man is a liar. And so, Lucy Conolly, I want to show you just a couple of moments that Slippery Starmer did lie to the world about you, about free speech, about two-tier justice. Watch.
But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there. We've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that. Yeah, we're not censoring anyone.
Lucy Conolly, how does it make you feel watching that man lie?
He's just a plonker, like, very proud about free speech for a very, very long time. Yeah, we've got free speech in the UK as long as it aligns with Labour's politics and Labour's values. If you don't align with them, then it's, curtains for you.
And what would you say to Starmer? Like, speak to him directly, because you are the walking, talking example of the fact that we do not have free speech. Because I've spoken to so many experts over the past year in regards to this, Lucy. Your post did not incite violence. The key words were, for all I care. And I mean, of course, you are regretful of that post for a whole load of reasons. But the point is, you were imprisoned for a post that included no specific threat or incitement to violence against anyone. So when Starmer says that we have free speech and it's something to be proud of, please respond to him directly. Dan Wootton Outspoken is available as a podcast too. So to listen or watch us on the go, wherever you are, then please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as a personal favour to me, please rate and review, as it really helps our independent show.
I would say to him, well, please tell me why that I was put behind bars then for 12.4 months and a sentence of 31. It is quite clear that my tweet, albeit not very nice, was hyperbole. It did say, for all I care. Did your mother never teach you as a child? My mum used to say to us, well, I don't care what such and such does. If they told you to run in front of a bus, would you? No. So don't do that then. That was her rhetoric all the time. I don't care what everyone else does. You don't do that. That's not what we do. And, you know, there was no incitement to that. Somebody taking a tweet down after they've had a moment of rage, it's quite clearly, if I was inciting anybody to do anything, I wouldn't have took that tweet down, would I have just left it there? But I understood that, you know, can't say things like that. Not a nice thing to say, really not clever, take it down. And on top of that, there was obviously my tweet. What other people don't understand is the tweet that I made was on the actual afternoon, early evening of the Southport murders, taken down the same day. There was no riots, there was no violence until a good week later. I think the first one was the Southport one. So, and as soon as they started kicking off, throwing bricks at the police, you know, rioting in the streets, I tweeted, please stop this. This is not what we want. We do not want civil unrest on our streets. You're playing into the government's hands here. Please stop. Obviously, that tweet was shown to the judge, that tweet was shown to the CPS by my lawyers, but that didn't matter. So apparently I've only got influence when I'm telling people to do awful things, not when I'm asking them, you know, to behave themselves. I've either got influence and I'm inciting things, or I don't. You can't have it both ways, can you?
100%.
So I had, you know, enough influence and incitement, you know, when I made a horrible tweet. But any positive tweets that I've made after and before were ignored.
Well, it was, you know, I was in court that day for your appeal hearing, and it was just astonishing to me that the judge couldn't seem to properly understand the timeline. Because as you pointed out, sorry, you come in.
I don't think it's that they don't understand, Dan. It's just they don't, it doesn't fit their narrative. So they changed the facts to suit themselves.
Correct. And the mainstream media have never tried to understand, you know,
No.
because you were their enemy. But unfortunately, that has backfired on them, because we know all of the other people who the mainstream media either support or ignore. Now, I think what happened over Southport, and it was a whole load of things, you know, it was the horror of that case, it was the political punishment, and let's be honest, more than punishment, the political persecution of people like you. But also that day, Lucy, do you remember when he turned up and he was there for a matter of seconds? And there were
heckled,
and he was heckled, but but the people heckling him, you know, were not the far right thugs as he tried to make out, and as to this day he still tries to make out.
Parents.
Yes, and some people, by the way, whose friends had children stabbed in that dance class, you know, they were locals, and he walked away, and I honestly believe that was the beginning of the end for Starmer. You look at him now, Lucy.
Yeah, he's still here.
Well, yes, he is, but he is the Walking Dead. I mean, he is the most unpopular prime minister of all time since records began. So this is like almost, it's almost impossible for this to go on. But what we're seeing on the left of politics, and I'm fascinated for your view of this, is a galvanization around the extreme. So we've just seen Mamdani elected as the first Muslim mayor of New York. You know, he's going to destroy New York in the same way that Sadiq Khan has destroyed London. But we're also seeing the tit whisperer, you know, this extremist Zach Polanski, overtaking Labour in the polls here. But first, as we get older, you notice it. After a cold, a hard workout, even a long week, recovery just isn't as quick as it used to be, right? That bounce back factor matters. And it turns out the secret isn't luck, it's stem cells, your body's built-in repair crew. With age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. That's exactly why Qualia created Qualia Stem Cell. Think of it this way. Your cells are powerful. Qualia Stem Cell helps keep them that way. It's crafted with nature's heavy lifters, sea buckthorn, royal jelly, and more to support your body's natural repair system so you can keep moving, healing, and thriving. You don't have to accept slowing down. This is about supporting better aging by reactivating the systems that help you bounce back. And it's refreshingly simple. You take it just 4 days a month. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And right now, you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/Dan. And here's a bonus. Use the code Dan for an additional 15% off your order. So that's QUALIA life.com/Dan. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do it that better. And a big thanks, by the way, to Qualia for sponsoring this episode of Outspoken. But now, back to the show.
Well, that's how desperate things are, isn't it? Anything but Labour. That's, I always say anything but Chardonnay, but I'll change it to anything but Labour, I think.
And so what's going to happen, though, is I believe a further creep to the left. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm not convinced.
It was interesting seeing what happened at the Cafferly by-election, though, wasn't it? In Wales, because there is this ability, you see, that's maybe what the left do better, Lucy, than us, right? However you choose to define us. I mean, lots of people, including the likes of Ben Habib, say left-right labels are meaningless now. Reform UK say the same thing too. Very often it's against sort of common sense versus woke madness, or patriots and nationalists versus those who want no borders and are globalists and don't believe in protecting our country at all. But however you look at it, Lucy, the left feel like they are much more strategic in terms of being able to unite. And I did want to ask you about what has happened on the right of British politics, because, of course, what we have seen, and I know we've spoken about this privately, and I had a discussion with you on Substack about this the other day, we unfortunately have split on the right. And I do blame Reform quite a lot for this because, of course, they thrust out Rupert Lowe brutally. They thrust out Ben Habib brutally. They've attacked Tommy Robinson brutally. And it's like, they're not your enemies. Do you know what I mean? Starmer's your enemy. Mahmood is your enemy. The tit whisperer Zelensky is your enemy. Corbyn and Sultana, who want to bring Islamism to the UK, are your enemies. Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and Tommy Robinson are not your enemies. So I just wonder what your view on this is. Do you think there's any way that the right can unite, or is it too late for that?
I mean, I would love to think so, but I don't know. I think there's too much water under the bridge now between the likes of Rupert and Reform and Ben and Nigel. And it's such a shame because I always speak as I find, and all three of them, Rupert, Nigel, and Ben, have had my back throughout this whole thing. They've all, publicly said how this is lunacy and I shouldn't be in prison. And it's especially, and I do love Rupert. I think everybody on the right has a real soft spot for Rupert, because I just think he dares to say what many of us are too scared to say, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And you have to remember with Rupert as well, he doesn't need to do that job. He's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't need to be a politician. He gives away his wages every month. So I think you have to remember about Rupert, whether you agree with what he says or what you don't, if you disagree, whatever he's doing, he does it because he really believes it's the right thing to do, and there's no kind of gain for him individually. He doesn't want to be prime minister. He doesn't, he's not bothered. I genuinely believe that he speaks for the people, for the good of the people, and he doesn't have much of an ulterior motive. And I think it's such a shame that they've all fallen out, because imagine if they're all so good, they all have their own individual strengths. Ben has his, Rupert has his, Nigel has his. Imagine if they just came together, all three of them. And, and I'm just a bit worried that what's going to happen is some people that maybe would have voted for Reform are now going to move over, to Ben Habib's party, Advance. I mean, we've seen that happening already. And in order for anybody to take out Labour next time, they need a lot of votes. So splitting that vote isn't helpful, is it? You know, we need one party getting the majority of votes, not people that are more, you know, right, you know, leaning, some voting for reform, some voting for advance, some voting for this, that, and the other. Whereas if they were all together, working together, those votes would all go into one pot. So I think it's dangerous territory for reform in the sense of I don't want them to lose votes because of this. And I'd love them to all come together and work together. But, you know, and Rupert had Sarah's back, and so did Ben the other day. You know, they weren't spiteful about her because,
100%. And that's the
you know,
thing,
when
if only
they felt for her. And
Yeah.
like we all did, you know, we thought, you know, that poor woman's been absolutely attacked for what? Because her opinion doesn't align with yours. And, you know, Rupert and Ben both came out and were really grown up about it for politicians, and said, you know, keep going, Sarah, we're behind you. And, you know, that was really nice to see, because I think there's too much backstabbing in politics. You know, grow up. And you know, I think Kemi's got the right idea with some of that. You know, she just says, well, you know, you know, I'm leaving the boys to it type thing. And I think she's got the right idea, really. But oh yeah, I'd love to see them all come together, but I just really don't foresee that happening.
And Lucy, you are going to be with Rupert in Westminster on Monday.
Yeah, the
I believe.
17th. Yeah.
So talk me through that. What's happening there?
So yeah, he put forward a motion. He did a petition, and didn't he, and put forward a motion that we shouldn't be using a prison sentence to punish anybody who makes social media posts. It's a complete waste of everybody's time and money, and you know, we have free speech, etc. So yeah, he's taking that to debate whether we should be using the prison system, a prison sentence, to punish anybody making social media posts.
Good. Well, I will cover that on Monday. Very, very excited about it. I think Rupert Lowe does a really great job, actually. And I love what he's done with Restore Britain, which is, of course, his cross-party movement, which is one thing that's nice about it, too.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.